Hello, hello, hello. Sounds like something some people have said. There's a post, I don't know what is. But anyways, welcome to another video of blah 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 blah. So, I've been wanting to post this for quite a while now. I don't know, a few months now, and I kind of hesitated. I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna post it because I actually love this show, and it has a lot of Plutonian themes in it. And I don't know if you know this show, it's called Santa Clarita Diet. It's hilarious. It's a great take on dark humor and like that heavy Plutonian energy that is very much like, oh, it's so serious, it's very heavy, be real, be real. Like, yeah. But looking at it from a humorous perspective, or at least really making it, it's dark humor, dark humor. It just makes it so much easier to deal with the process, and trauma becomes this lighter thing that it's like, you know what? Yeah. We're talking about taboo things, that's very Plutonian, but it's mostly like it's a very Scorpio thing, but more like an eighth house thing, that's for sure, for strictly talking about where things are. But at the same time, it is. So it is, it is Plutonian. So here's a chart. I'm just going to go through it kind of, well, hopefully I can fit it within 1 hour, but because I talk a lot. But anyways, so here's the thing. So let's take a look. This is the first time I'm actually reading it or looking at it. Let's see here. Sun was in Aquarius. That makes sense. Okay, so the governing bodies, the things that kind of rule this, production companies, I forgot which kind of production company this was, but you can see here, Santa Clarita Diet, February 3, 2017. It's when the show was aired. Was it aired or released? Yeah, I'm not sure if those are the same thing. But yeah, so naturally Aquarius, Sun in Aquarius, so very weird, very eccentric, positively eccentric. You know, innovative, look at different things, very extreme as well. And like, it's like doing this kind of things. And if I don't know the wording, and if I don't have the words for it, just go with it because, I really sometimes just don't know the words. And I'm going to use some of my cheat sheet here if I do. If I start to get bored with it, meaning if it's just thinking too much, then I'm not going to do it. So naturally, it's opposite of the MC. So that means it's going to be opposing societal expectations of what people view it to be. So naturally, it's going to be like, what? This show is so fucking weird. Yes, absolutely. And it is, and I love it. I hold my moon in Aquarius. I hold it close to my heart. So, what else was there? Sorry, it's funny. I love the show. And it's also squared. Okay, squared to it's how it's wanted to be perceived as like kind of a quirky, dark humor, which is in Scorpio, ascended in Scorpio. So that means the chart ruler is going to be Pluto, which was in Capricorn. So, okay, serious things about, what else is Capricorn? Serious, more focused on perfectionism, I suppose, getting it right, but more like with the public. So it wanted to reveal itself to the public in a very sort of Capricorn way. Like it adds to how the producers wanted to reveal it to everyone in the world, United States, whatever. Right. So the planet, the chart ruler is mainly Pluto, but also Mars. So let's take a look. Mars, Aries. Okay, it's fitting sign. Okay. And so yeah, so it does come off also very aggressive, but also very like curious and very much present, and like just being, you can tell when you watch the show, it's like it's basically like in the moment. The script writers, they made it sort of in that it was heading in that direction, and definitely did. That's why I love it, even from the very first episode actually. What else? So Mars represents accidents in general. I'm not really sure how that ties into the show, but something to do with accidents. He was probably like very, they must have had to do a lot of editing probably, which because it ties into the Pluto in Capricorn, which is a very serious energy, which keeping it stable. Does it even square to it? Nope, it's not. But yeah, so that's the ruler. The chart rulers are Pluto and Mars because of Scorpio. Sun, where else is Sun? Okay, Sun is also squaring the ascendant, so that means that it's going to be internally perceived by the kind of questioned in a way, challenges with, is this too weird? Is this not? Is this too dark? Is this too? But they just went with it. I think they worked with that energy really well. The Scorpio and the Aquarius energy. I know this for myself. It's like wonderful. So, anyways, ascendant opposite the moon. Okay, so that means people are going to perceive it. Probably perceive it differently. They're going to perceive it as if it's going to be more, or it draws in, because the moon is conjunct the descendant, so it draws in people who are more ground down to earth. So it does like with the people as well, because the moon represents the public, the general public. In Taurus, so that means, yeah, so groundedness, this is probably what people drawn to, or people who are very earthy in a way, kind of very much into, who enjoy stuff like this, because it's Taurus is pleasure. And that's true, that's right, it does. And it did, and it still does. Conjunct series, so it's providing some sort of health, this series rules epigenetics, so this how it affects the public would be greatly affected by these critical degrees of series in Aries to kind of be more, take initiative towards more like the health of the public. So how this portrays kind of like, oh, if there's a theme of the show, which is cannibalism or zombieism really, then it's going to kind of create some people, like attract some people who are kind of very like aggressive about it, maybe easily affected by it in an emotional level, and kind of, I don't know, series is about losses as well, and gains and losses. So people, there might be people who didn't like this, and people who might also like this. So it's kind of back and forth in this case. Particularly people who are who are very much like concerned about health, because this is in the 6th house, so it deals with a lot of health stuff as well. So zombieism, cannibalism, because that's what dark humor does anyways. It triggers a lot of people. It can, and I think that's what they're looking for, because it's the truth, right? What else? Series was then opposite to, actually let's take a look back into, so moon was in Taurus, 6th house, so a lot of concerns about health, yes of course, but also Venus, because Venus rules Taurus. Venus was in the critical degrees of Pisces, so that means that a lot of imagination put into the show, a lot of imagination, like how they can relate with people in the public as well. So it's going to be fictional stuff, delusions, illusions, fictional stuff. It's very much Neptunian themes with Venus here. So that affects the moon as well, in terms of you're talking about the public and how receptive they would be about the show. But it does, again, there's that series thing. It provides some sort of like, in a way, it brings out the truth in terms of like, how do we nurture ourselves and sort of all that stuff. But anyways, okay, now it's getting a little serious. Venus itself, let's go back to the sun. Let's go Uranus and Saturn. First we go to Saturn. Saturn was in Sagittarius, 24 degrees. Okay, so definitely expansive. The show was getting better at its writing. The producers of the show were more getting more better ideas, more innovative ideas on how to produce, but also kind of, I think because the sun was in the fourth house, it was kind of like it was shown on Netflix, so therefore it was. In a way, there's a lot of things that was not shown publicly, like not many people know about the show, so it did remain kind of still almost culty, like it's like a cult show almost, maybe. Not really, because it's on Netflix, but because it's Netflix, it's either going to be public or not public. But because Uranus was in Aries, it's going to give that sort of unexpected surprises that, if you've never seen the show, then it's going to be lots of surprises for you. It's like, it's going to be funny, it's going to be present, it's going to be just fun. That's what it is. It's fun, it's funny, and it's hilarious, and it's dark humor, yes. Um, yeah. So we've done the sun and we've done the moon. What else? We've done ascendant. Sun rules 10th house here because of Leo. That means, of course, naturally, it's going to be about. Yeah, even though people might be against it or the public would see it differently, they would still be open to it. I would say they would be kind of open to the quirkiness because even though it's Leo, there's that Leo energy. It's still fun because it's a fun show. Therefore, they're open to that. It kind of breaks the ice in a way. MC or the midheaven is square the moon. So of course, yes, challenges in terms of receptiveness of the audience and the people and the public. So naturally, a lot of the themes goes around the moon, the sun, also the ascendant for sure. There is this grand sextile here with North Node in North Node. Is it conjunct? No, it's not conjunct Orcus. North Node Virgo. Oh, core in 0 degrees with Juno. Core, a certainty of oneself, certainty of standing in your ground kind of thing. With Juno and committing to that and sticking to the storylines, especially sticking to your worth because it's in the second house and how it's making money and how that's how they earn money by being just, being itself, being certain, being true to your word and really just committing to it and trying with also the moon and how that relates to its trine to the moon. So how that, whatever receptiveness they get from the public will affect the show naturally because it did. Sorry, spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it. It's only for 3 seasons, which is okay because it ended quite well and kind of makes you. I like shows that don't drag on. It just goes, okay, here's the ending, and that's what it is. So the rest is left to the imagination, which is a great thing because that means it helps us to be more like, okay, what else? What could have happened? That's okay. That's fun. And of course, it was also trying to series, so that means that it was committing to that story also provided some, valuable information to how we could work with the information we're getting towards, like maybe brings awareness towards our health and how we can be more like, okay, maybe you shouldn't eat that. Be a little bit more, aware of what you want to put in your mouth before you, because you never know if it's going to turn you into a zombie, right? So, and because it's trying also to the North Node, at that time North Node was in Virgo, so that means that people were at this time were more concerned about health and wellness, the collective journeys towards health and wellness, towards feeling better. So, but bringing about the show, they can learn more about it and say, okay, be a little bit more conscious about it because it does rule the 6th house as well, which is the unconscious, or the public, or at least the leaders might be kind of affected by, because it's the 10th house, but it's because it's trine, because it was in Virgo, and Virgo rules the 6th house, it still has a lot to do with the unconscious as well. So instead of just going about your daily life and doing da 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 da, it brought awareness to people and say, okay, but not only about zombieism or cannibalism, but also like, once you're awakened, you like be your true self. That's what it's trying to show. At least that's the way I'm looking at it, because I've seen the show. So part of me, if it's a little biased, it's not very typical that, astrology shouldn't be that biased, but it can happen. But I want to go into Orcus here because Orcus is retrograde, so integrity of the show in terms of how maybe like the studio or the workplace was. So they did, maybe there was a questioning of like how integral and how real the show is going to be in terms of regarding health, and working with the wisdom they got from it from Pallas Athena. It's opposite Pallas Athena and Neptune, with the delusions that they probably were. Maybe there were some issues with with how the production was going. Maybe like they didn't know. They had some maybe illusions or imaginations of what the show could have been in the future, but if they were not honest with it, then it might not have gone in the right direction, which kind of explains why it did only go up through 3 seasons. But at the same time, that's still okay. Okay. So, what else? Orcus is also trine the moon, so naturally people will start to question its integrity and like in terms of like, what are you trying to show? How is this about health? How is this going to be related to unconscious behavior? I see here a grand. Oh, okay. It's a grand It's a grand square. It's grand cardinal square actually. Varuna, Vesta. We're going to do it one by one here. Varuna, Vesta, square, Eris, Uranus. Limitations, questioning, because it's in retrograde, questioning of its own, like how family values like are affected here, because it's in terms of like its publication to foreign countries or in the foreign and into foreign lands, and how this can highly educate people. How are they going to be the tasks that needed to be complete so that they can, and devoting to the project itself, and how this is going to be, because this is in the 9th house. I believe this is something to do with foreign relations and how this is going to be, because it's going to be on Netflix, it's going to be seen by a lot of people, but how that ties into what kind of honest breakthroughs it's going to make when it comes to health. Eris and Uranus in the 6th house, also Aries in there. It's in the sign of Aries. Those 2 signs are ruled by the moon, so the public has a say in its how long it's going to last, with Varuna and Vesta there, how devoted the production company is going to be in terms of like airing it, and Mars ruling Aries here is going to dictate, it's going to dictate how fun it would be. So there's a kind of questioning about like how fun it would be for people in the public, and but fun at the same time, informative and breakthrough-ish and really innovative, but also real and kind of like testing the waters and really make people think, right? What is this? How would it trigger you? What does it mean for you? Eris is right there. It's like kind of creating disharmony, but also creates this harmony for intense communication, like with the reports, maybe done on it, or reporters, the news, or at least like how it's going to circulate in terms of information, and how Pluto is going to be, how it's going to go viral, literally in this case, because Pluto is right there, it's conjunct Mercury, how it's going to go viral. And because it's in Capricorn, it's going to be viral in terms of like how it goes into not only the public, but like through what streams it's going to go through. In this case, an association like or a group or kind of network like the publication that's or the studio, and also Netflix have to go through that. And then also square that. So again, there might have been trouble in terms of how this is going to break through. So yeah, so that grand square there is quite heavy, but they were able to go through it. But we're also going to add here Haumea in retrograde, Jupiter in Jupiter, both Jupiter and Haumea are in Libra. So really probably kind of feeding the relationships they've had in terms of diplomacy or diplomatic relationships they have, possibly with health related stuff, maybe, I don't know, health sort of the health industry, and like how they're going to privately like connect with them and see like how does this show provide insight into people's lives, right? And Libra is ruled by Venus primarily, but also Eris. So here it's going to be fifth house, so it's going to tie into like how fun it would be and how it's not just going to be bringing in new ideas, bringing fresh ideas, but also like is it going to continue really? So they had to go through like sort of secret, not secret channels, but yeah, it could be clandestine affairs. Is 12th house. So the show was expanding on its own, regenerating on its own, but it kind of in a sort of uncertain way through maybe private support, not really sure about donations there, but yeah, private support through private. Okay, that's why it's in Netflix. Okay, because Netflix isn't exactly like worldwide kind of thing. Okay, that makes sense now. With Varuna Vesta retrograde opposite, that would probably mean that how it goes viral might be affected in terms of how it's going to go internationally, and it's kind of uncertain if it's still going internationally. But it's still on Netflix, I believe, so if it's there, then it's most likely going to be there. But there's a kind of like questioning of that and how committed it's going to stay there. How it's going to be like, is it going to stay there? I don't know. Trine, so Vesta trine, Chiron, it's going to naturally bring up issues, wounding, most likely social wounding and losses with probably like over time, eventually it lost its kind of energy, basically maybe because of the reception of people, how people were perceptive were. Moon right here is a public, it rules Cancer, so it definitely has affected that. So naturally, if it brought up illusions and delusions of what it means to awaken through the symbolism and analogy of zombieism or cannibalism, meaning like, I believe the representation of cannibalism is eating of yourself, meaning total acceptance, right? Zombieism is unconsciousness, and what does it mean to eat of yourself? What does it mean to consume of something so familiar? It's absolute intimacy, but at the same time, why do we want absolute intimacy? Because we want to be connected with our higher selves, right? In truth, that's what it is. Chiron here, it's Chiron in Pisces is a loss of that idealism. It's not like, it's almost like we're not connected with our higher selves and the self itself, that the energy that is, that's consciousness and awareness. But trying that to Vesta, once we commit to that, when the show was being in that it has that, carries that energy of like, once it's staying in terms of like its connection to the international world, international communities, either through Netflix or other channels, mainly through Netflix, then it's going to be most likely people are going to be awakened through that and be like, okay, it might help people deal with their issues, not only with this representation and symbolism and analogy or analysis or whatever of cannibalism / zombieism, right? It's not just a fun thing, but it's also kind of like, oh, what does that mean, right? And because Neptune rules Pisces here, it's going to bring wisdom into, naturally, it's a square to Pallas Athena. It's going to bring us awareness and kind of kind of makes us feel like, oh, there's actually something I'm learning from this one. But also Jupiter was in Libra, so it's going to build in how we relate and value ourselves with it, how we can actually um, weigh things in terms of like how does that give us um, peace in terms of our wounding with the loss of our connection. So the show is bringing in the Vesta, sort of bringing it closer to home, retrograde in Cancer, right? So people right here, Moon rules Cancer naturally. Okay, yeah, it brings wisdom anyways, naturally, because it's the way they're intending it to be. Was it brought wisdom to the home in terms of like your more intimate environments, things in secret also, things that are hidden, things that are put away. It's very fourth house. The ascendant is trine Neptune, Pallas Athena right there. Okay, this is where we're going to get a little bit testier, where we have Mars square. It squares both Pholus and Juno. Pholus and Juno and Core. So naturally, it's going to create a decision making in terms of like the TV's worth, in terms of how fun it would be and how they just go about it, and like should we go through it because it's kind of I'm not sure, because Pholus is in the last critical degrees of Sagittarius. How do we go through it? How do we go make it expand? How do we gain insight into making this sort of like this fun show without really causing harm? You have Venus here in the last degrees of Pisces, very, very gentle, exalted in Pisces sign, planet, sorry. But it's also in itself square Pholus, core Juno. So how to be certain about the show in terms of where it's headed and how we can relate to the people in general, how kind of this um, makes the show worth keeping and continuing to be pursued. Um, there's some things I didn't mention here, which is like this, what Venus is. Venus is, well, it is relationships, but it's also um, money and how it's the value of it, the value of the show, and how we proceed with the value of the show based on decisions that they made, Pholus, and if it has any dire or like, is there any severe consequences? Really like serious decision makings that they had to make, because it's in the last degrees of Sagittarius going into 0 degrees Capricorn. We have to be serious about the decision we have to make, but stick with that because of core, and really go with creative intelligence, and really like how do we be creative about this, but expanding it and getting that sort of what other knowledge can we get, what other wisdom can we get, how do we go about this so that the show continues, that it's actually educating people in the right way. Ixion is also right there, so Ixion is square Venus, and also Chiron. That means if it's square that means Saturn is there. Saturn puts a boundary on what the show's intention is, to be really completely honest with itself. It's bliss. The weathering of the show, meaning it's like weather patterns and unpredictability in terms of the science behind it and how to proceed with that. Saturn kind of puts a dampener on that, but at the same time kind of, in a way, brings down to earth what real bliss is. Like how to make this show about real, how to make it really real in terms of like how do we work through and make this show that it's so that it brings people, makes people understand it's like you can be true to yourself and find your bliss and eat it too. Like, when you have your cake and eat it too, but in this case it's bliss. So I don't know if that makes sense. But yeah, and in terms of like your wounding, in terms of how, but people might have been questioned, people might be brought to question this and like, I'm supposed to have fun, but I can't, I'm losing myself in this process, like of the shows, like, I don't know, this doesn't tie in with the Piscean feel of like, I need to be out from that, this is too dark, this is evil, blah, 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 and all that stuff. And it kind of makes people probably have questions about the show, because it is dark humor. But it's not meant to really attract everyone. It's funny. Make is square, is square. Oh, it's square Folus Juno core, so that means insights into ideas. Very witty, sort of sometimes unpredictable shows, and how, in this case, it's more about like how it builds communities. The show itself, talking about the general thing I've been doing here is like how the show is relative to its release, not necessarily what's happening in that storyline in terms of like the staff and the producers, writers, and directors. I don't know much about that, like, because I don't know if what planets really represent in that regard, like who's represented there. But it's it could be that the Make is like Mercury and Uranus, which is like the writers. More like that would be more like Mercury. The directors would be anywhere like probably like Saturn. Producers would probably be like the sun itself. Those would be the producers or executive producers. The Make was in retrograde, so in Libra as well. So that means that the idea of being able to quickly resolve things or communicate things in a very efficient way and through intelligence and wisdom is kind of like put into question, because it's like, oh, it's in retrograde, and that's, because what decisions had to be made in the first place to keep this show on. Sedna was in Taurus, 25 degrees, retrograde. I'm not sure what Sedna here is. I'm still going to have to get back to that one. But this, I don't know if this pertains to how this show brings in like mirrors in, because it's in the 7th house, it mirrors in shadow, like the shadow of receptivity itself, which is like forgiveness is similar to receptivity, forgiveness. This is Sedna, like real gentle forgiveness and like really standing in your ground in terms of like connection with higher. There's something about Sedna that's a little bit more grounded. What did I write here about Sedna? I've already actually written like a different cheat sheet. I separated the asteroids in different cheat sheet, but still slow. Oh, okay. Destiny cycles, la 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 la. La 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 la. Forgiving disposition, discernment, clarity, perception, returns, responsible, Dharma. Okay, well that's the thing. Okay, let's look at it from mundane perspective. Okay, well, healing engagement. Okay, emotional healing engagement. Receptivity. I would say receptivity is part of this one as well. How Oh, masks. Okay, that's interesting. So mask is like in terms of, oh, okay, in a way receptivity. So it is ties into that one, like in terms of receptivity in receptivity in transmission of truth, maybe. I don't know. I'm gonna put a question mark there. So something about like receptivity itself in terms of how people would accept it. Not just that, but in terms of its general cycle, like the whole thing, because it's said that it's like a much wider, this thing. I don't know how to put it in words. It is trying. Ah, okay. So highly. Okay, that makes sense. It was widely received by the public, or at least received by people who are. It would definitely draw in, and attract people who are maybe questioning their own truth and sort of have to hide in between. I'm not really sure how to put this in. I don't know. I'm still new to sadhana. Sadhana is like really new to me. So, but something about receptivity. I don't know. I'll have to look back at it. But anyways, I wanted to do a general sort of review on this one. What else didn't I do? La 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 la. Orcus I already mentioned. Okay, now let's look at the other ones. What else was there? I want to do something more general here. Okay, narcissism was there. Okay, crazy crayot. Okay, hubris was there. Okay, I don't know if that ties. Even conjunct to any of the planets right here. Lucifer was tied to Narcissus. Okay. Can't really show what that is. Not really sure. I don't have a complete analysis of Narcissus and also Lucifer, but definitely your dark side, like your. It's all similar actually. There's quite similar themes. Ah, okay. Icarus is there, so that means they had to do a. There's a lot of risk taking with the show in terms of how it's going to be public. Okay, yeah, naturally. Okay, Icarus is right there. Square moon to the public. Okay, that makes sense. It creates a grand square, a grand fixed square actually. Go to the other one here. Isis. Okay. So Isis is square the sun, and Osiris is also square the sun. So that means that it's bringing. They probably had different executive producers, so that means a different storyline. That kind of makes sense. They did have to go through ships from season to season, which is natural. But they also had to bring in some healing with that. Isis is like, or not healing, but like undoubted love of the show, like it's undoubted commitment, I would say, of the executive producers, or how it was like really like going to bring in the changes to how people perceive not only zombieism, but what does it mean, right? So, okay. Viral because of lust, okay. Different types of lust. It's like, okay, naturally, the weird type of lust. Lust is conjunct Uranus, so naturally it's an innovative form of lust. Like, it definitely brings in different ideas of it. Yeah, you'll see the show. You'll see what I mean. Themis is responsibility. So, like, on something like things you can't escape, responsibilities you can't escape. With the law, I think, or something like that. I don't remember. Probably had issues with the law. I'm not really sure. Okay. The destiny of the show. Themis is conjunct Neptune. Okay. So they probably had, no, more like they probably had issues with the law pertaining to how people, like when it comes to health, maybe the health industry or health, anything to do with health, like, right? Because it's Virgo, perfectionist, people would be like, "Ew, what is that? Gross." Right? So that's naturally going to be the case. And then, but they also probably had concerns about that, maybe exaggerated, maybe, or maybe brought to. It might have been kind of imagined because it is Neptune here. The general destiny of the show is that it's going to be Pisces, so maybe wonderful, really crazy and out there. It's also that's the one that's opposite North Node. Okay, but Themis and Neptune are opposite Anubis. Okay, so okay, Anubis is conjunct the cusp of the 11th house. So that means it's going to be. Is there something else there? No. No. Anubis is well, it's rebirth naturally, but it's like transitions. It's kind of like Osiris, but Osiris is like having some sort of backup and knowing from and learning from trauma, whereas Anubis is more about the actual transition itself. I haven't finished Anubis yet, like the information on it, so I'm not going to go into that one right now. Ganymede, I will skip that because there's something about Ganymede. I don't remember what that is. I put that in there because I thought it was like relevant, and then it was like, okay, I made a mistake. Because that ties into Nymph. Nymph is conjunct the moon. Okay, I did finish Nymph. Childlikeness. Okay, so naturally it draws in. Nymph is more conjunct to the descendant, so it's going to draw in people who are more into like the nature childlike sort of approach to like innocent, very sort of like curious love into this whole thing, captivation, playfulness, right? Yeah, very much a childlike student. So they'd be having fun with the show as well. The public would be having fun with the show, enjoying it. So that's that. Horus brings insight. Horus is in 0 degrees Aquarius. Come on, give me Horus. Okay. I said, give me horse. What the heck is this? Oh, harmonic. Okay. Heritage, culture, ancestry, unifications, times of peace, falcon or domination, rulership, kingdoms, monarchy. World, envy, squabbles, fights. Okay. 0 degrees. Okay, so it is square the moon, I believe. 0 degrees Aquarius. Yeah, so it's square the moon and possibly Nymph, but I would say more like the moon. So that means that it's going to be, or it was perceived by the public that they maybe couldn't get insight from the show as well. They probably kind of questioned, like, what the heck does this mean? So they didn't know, they probably saw it as like, by face value, this is what it is, instead of, digging deep into it, like figuring out what is going on here. Because Horus, right here, I don't see it conjunct to any other planet here. There must be something else, or I don't know what it is, but I didn't look it up. Anyway, so that's the general gist of the show. This is one of my favorite shows. It's funny, it's hilarious, it's dark humor. Take it from it whatever you want, however you want to. But it was fun. Anyways, that was the finally able to show a video about that one. In any case, I guess I'll see you later. Thank you so much. I'll see you later. Bye.